Today is going to be a really great episode because if you're like me and you've had struggles with your weight, then you know there's a lot of back and forth and mental drama that goes with it. I'll be honest with you, I have not figured it out. And I've gone back and forth almost my whole life with my weight struggles. And so it was a problem with scarcity around food when I was very young. And then as I got older, it became a problem with not being able to manage the amount of food I ate and really not being able to limit myself. And that leading into emotional eating and eating when I'm bored or when I'm stressed. And some of the things that many of you have struggled with. Now, I don't have all the answers, but I do have a very special guest today, Dr. Alicia Shelly, who has figured out a lot of this. Dr. Shelley also happens to be an obesity medicine physician. So, are you ready to shift your mindset and tap into the opportunities that are waiting for you right now? Let's go. Welcome to the Creating Clarity podcast, where we talk all about clearing the fog, shifting our focus, and uncovering the opportunities that are hidden right in front of us. I'm your host, Dr. Liz Aguirre. Before I begin, I must emphasize that this work is separate from my professional medical work and does not represent medical advice or opinions of any specific organization. All right, welcome back to the Creating Clarity podcast. I am extremely excited about welcoming on my guest today, Dr. Alicia Shelly. She is board certified in internal medicine, just like myself. However, she is also an obesity medicine physician, and she currently works at Wellstar Medical Group in Douglasville, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta. And one of the podcasts that I have been binging on lately is called Back on Track, Overcoming Weight Regain. And that is Dr. Shelley's podcast and YouTube channel. So thank you so much for providing that because it has been amazing. And I know that people will get a lot out of that too. Now, in addition, she is a fitness enthusiast and she's completed 6 marathons. That's right, 6. And she recently had a huge accomplishment and completed a half Ironman. And of course, she's getting bigger and bigger goals. So she is training for her first full Ironman in September. So welcome, Dr. Shelley. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure.
Okay, so the Creating Clarity podcast is all about making the mental shifts to create clarity in our life. And I will be honest with you, I don't know if this podcast episode is going to serve my audience more or me more because one of the things that I have not yet made a mental shift on is my weight. And so I'd like to start off by talking a little bit about how you came to starting your podcast and let the audience know about your journey and how you got here.
Yeah, so I've always battled with my weight for a long time, even since as a child. And so a lot of times I've done like most people where you kind of gain weight, lose it, then gain it back, lose it. And so when I look over my lifetime, I've noticed where I've gained the most weight were periods of stress and just high intensity, not able to really focus on myself. And then periods where I lost weight was when I was like, okay, now I'm going to get focused. I'm going to go exercise. I'm going to go eat right. A lot of times people want like an easy fix, but there's not an easy fix to a healthy lifestyle. It's more of kind of putting in, doing the small things consistently is kind of what helps. And so when I created this podcast, I wanted it to help people who are like myself, who are going up and down, up and down, up and down, and they're just not seeing that consistency. And so I wanted to help those who had lost weight get and regained it back to kind of get back on track with that. And so, which I've done in my lifestyle multiple times. But you're absolutely right. Sometimes it's just a mind shift on how you look at it. Instead of looking at it like, well, I'm just going to do this diet to lose 10 or 15 pounds, it's more of like, hey, let me look at my lifestyle and what can I change so I can have a healthier lifestyle and lose the weight permanently.
I mean, that is so good. And of course, I've done the same thing. I mean, up and down, up and down. What do you think is the number one reason that people regain the weight? Do you think it's just the lack of focus, or do you think there's other contributing factors that are sneaking in without us even realizing it?
So I would say number one is life. As we go into life, there's so many things that happen, whether it's, oh, I have a new job, or, oh, my mother's sick, I have a family member who's sick, or I have all these responsibilities. Life just kind of gets into the way. And you find that you're trying to do everything for everybody. And before you know it, you've kind of not been able to put yourself first and not being able to, do the small things that you need to do just because life has gotten into the way. The other thing that I see is that people get discouraged. For some reason, they've lost weight, and then all of a sudden they start to see the pounds trickle up, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm just going to give up. There's nothing I'm going to do that's going to help me lose weight." And that's the sad part, because a lot of times, if you just retune your mind, or refocus your thoughts or your mindset, you'll be able to get back down to that weight that you were.
So Tony Robbins says that all the time. He says, where your focus goes, energy flows. But
Mhm.
that's kind of easier said than done. How do we actually get to that point where we can make that mindset shift? So it's a little bit more seamless to focus on this part of our life. So you might not know this, but recently in my email list, I'm trying to really start a movement, the me first movement, because I full-heartedly agree with you. We have to be able to say me first and prioritize our own health and well-being, because it's impossible for us to keep doing for everybody else before ourselves. So, how do you make that shift though? How can you get to that point where it becomes a little bit easier instead of always being so hard?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I love that movement, because we do need to make ourselves a priority. I would
Yes,
say
yes.
th- the first thing is actually realizing that you have put other people in front of you, that you are not a priority in your life, because that's the first thing. Being mindful of the fact that I'm not putting myself first, or I'm burning the candle at both ends with work, family, and responsibilities, and then making a decision. Number two is making that decision. Number one, seeing where you are. Number two, make that decision that you're going to do something for yourself first. And that decision doesn't have to be big. You don't have to like drop your kids off at your mom's house and then go do whatever. No, it's just saying, I'm going to spend 5 to 10 minutes for myself each day. And whether that's in meditation, whether that's in prayer, whether that's just in exercise, that's important. Finding what it is your self care is going to be important. Third thing is scheduling it. Because if you think about your day,
Yeah.
we have
Oh,
so
yeah.
much to do in our day, and we do not put a moment to recover or for self-care. We just go on along with the day, and then at the end we're like, whew, where did this day go? We fall asleep and we wake up and it's again. So if we don't schedule things, like you said, if we don't have our focus, we don't make it a priority, and it does not happen because we are so busy, so busy.
And sticking to that scheduled time is so important, because I had changed my schedule a little bit and I said, okay, I'm going to switch and do some other things first. And then the time would go a little long, and then it bleed over into my workout time. And then I'd be like, yeah, I guess I'd skip it today. So scheduling it and sticking to that schedule, super
Mhm.
important. Okay. Well,
One other thing I will say,
yeah.
Liz, one other thing is that even if you schedule it and for some reason you don't have 10 minutes, you don't have like this 30 minutes to exercise, even if you have 5 or 10 minutes, just do it, because that's enough that you need just to recover and get back on track and feel like you've accomplished something, even if it was in the amount of time you wanted it.
That is so true, because so many times, and I've been guilty of this, like, well, I guess I don't have time now. I only have 15 minutes. 15 minutes is so much better than skipping it all together, because in time, you skip and skip and skip, and then you fall out of the habit again. So even if it's just a tiny bit, that goes a long way. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so good. Okay, another question. So many of us kind of struggle. We try to like listen to podcasts, read books, figure out how to improve ourselves. We take all this advice. When do you know to go outside and actually get help? Like online courses or seeing an obesity medicine physician? When do you know, okay, I need more help than I can get from these online, freebies?
Yeah, I would say if you're feeling as if you're just not making any movement, even though you're doing the things, you're putting, you're making a meal prep, you're exercising, and you're still not feeling, you're just not seeing yourself move, then I would definitely seek a professional, whether an obesity medicine physician, primary care, or even a weight loss coach too, because sometimes they can be able to figure out what it is you're not doing and be able to help you with that and kind of helping you over that bridge or that mountain or that obstacle.
Sometimes you get so overwhelmed and you just can't see it yourself, and having that objective person kind of remind you. Now, remind me, Alicia, do you do any coaching?
I do. So I do one-on-one coaching and group coaching for weight loss. And you can go to my website, drshelleymd.com, to get more information.
Okay,
Mhm.
so I have talked a few times about coaching, and I thought this was a great place to kind of insert it. A
Mhm.
lot of people have heard of coaching, but they think of like a sports coach, or sometimes they even think, yeah, but that's like executives have coaches. Can the average person have a coach? And why would you suggest that the average person has a coach?
So so yes, the average person can have a coach, and the coach is more of like your accountability partner. They are the one that's going to help you with getting through the just the obstacles that happen, especially if you're not making any headway with what you're doing already. They can help you with kind of moving that needle so you can see the weight loss not only come off, but then being able to maintain it. So a lot of times as a doctor, we see our patients maybe every 3 months. So it's not as frequent as you would like. Whereas a weight loss coach would be seeing you every week, multiple times throughout the month, just trying to help you with kind of moving the needle and getting to your goal. So they're kind of that check-in person for you.
And one of the other beautiful things that I love about coaching is oftentimes we can't see that what we believe to be a limitation is really not a limitation. That's just a story that our brain is
Mhm.
offering us. It's not true at all. And coaches will sometimes pull that out of you and help you to see that a little bit more clearly. You can totally do it. That's just
Yeah.
a story your little brain is telling you, and it's just not true. So, yes,
So
I'm a big proponent of coaching.
yes, definitely. And I personally have gone through coaching and I feel like it's been very extremely healthy,
Yeah.
helpful.
Okay, another question. In terms of obesity and your mindset about obesity or being overweight, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. In your
Mhm.
coaching experience, what are the things that you see over and over again that people don't realize they're doing to self sabotage, or they're doing that is limiting their potential?
I would say all or nothing thinking. A lot of times people are like, I have to do everything perfect. I have to exercise, I have to run, I have to eat right. And if I don't do this, if I have I have a temptation for a milkshake and I drink this milkshake, then it's all over. So it's kind of this all or nothing thinking. And what that does is it actually helps people it actually, when you're thinking that I can only do everything or nothing at all, it causes you not to, it causes you to be more discouraged, distracted, and eventually stop. And so the one thing with all or nothing thinking is that it just kind of causes you to get overwhelmed and stressed because in your mind you're thinking I have to do all the things, but if I don't do all the things, then I'm a failure. When in actuality you're just human, right? We all have days
Right.
where we're at a birthday party and they're serving cake and we're like, oh, should I eat this cake? Well, if I ate that piece, then it's like, oh, I'm the worst person ever. Well, no, it's okay to have a slice of cake. Just exercise a little bit more that day, balance it out. So I would say the one thing that stops people is all or nothing thinking. I had this one client when she was able to overcome that all or nothing thinking, she actually enjoyed what she was doing and she was able to lose weight. And I asked her, I said, well, what was it that you did? What do you think what was it that helped you lose weight? She's like, I forgave myself. I forgave myself from being
Wow.
imperfect. And when I was able to move from that, it made everything so much easier.
That
She
is
had less
so
guilt.
good. Yeah. I mean, I am certainly guilty of that all or none thinking sometimes. I've gone to birthday parties and I said, well, I've already had one piece of cake. I might as well have two. And then it became three. Yeah, I totally have done that. Okay. I want to circle back a little bit more to the mindset piece because I truly believe that mindset is everything. Every aspect of our life, mindset is involved. And any kind of success we have, you have to have your mindset in the right place. So, I want you to talk a little bit more about your big accomplishment, the half Ironman, and how you got your mindset into that place where you are actually able to stay up with the training, get through it, and seemingly have a little bit of balance in your life. I think you even went on a big vacation recently. So tell us how you got your mind in that place where you could accomplish that.
So for many years, I would watch Iron Man on TV and be like, "Oh, I could never do that. Oh my gosh, look at these people. They're swimming, they're bicycling, they're running all these miles. I could never, ever, ever do that." And then I said the same thing about a marathon. And then I did a marathon. And I was like, and I started thinking, it took me like a couple years to get to this place when I saw a gentleman, his name, I forget his name, but he had Down syndrome and he did an Ironman
Ugh.
and he just trained, like he just put in the time. And I'm thinking, if this gentleman can do it just by putting in the time, I can do this too. And
Yes.
so by that mind shift, I'm like, I can do this. So I signed up. No, I did actually get a coach too. And I signed up with her in October, November time. And I'm like, listen, I want to do an Ironman in September. And I need your help to do that. She's like, you definitely can do that. We just have to put the training in. So she came up with the plan and then I just implemented it. And how I stayed consistent throughout the day, I mean throughout the training, is that I had to remind myself why I'm doing it. Why am I doing this Ironman? Like, what is my reasoning? Why? So, whenever we definitely go through hard things, we need to remind ourselves why we're doing it because I could see at the end that I'm going to finish this Ironman. Now, recently, I just finished the Ironman half, which was amazing. Amazing.
It's
Um,
huge.
because it was, the mindset I had to have throughout that trainings. I had to remind myself, well, you've trained, you've put in the time, you've done the distance. We're now just putting it all together in one day. And so
Yeah.
I had the day, there were times on that race when I got discouraged. I'm like, I don't know how I'm doing this. And what I did was I started focusing on the small steps. So I had to ride for 56 miles. And instead of thinking, oh my gosh, I have to ride 56 miles, what I did was I can ride 5 miles. So go 5 miles. And when I went to that 5 miles, oh, let me go to 10 miles. Okay, I did 10 miles. Let me go 5 more miles, 15. And so I focused on the baby steps that allowed me to finish, get to the end. And the same thing with the run. At that point, I was tired, my legs hurt. And I was like, just take it 1 mile at a time. And so a lot of times, especially with weight loss, is that you have to focus on the baby steps. Sometimes when you see the full picture, it looks very overwhelming. But if you say, hey, I'm going to focus on losing 2 pounds, I'm going to focus on losing my next 5 pounds. Before you know it, it starts to add up. And before you know it, you've reached your goal of the 20 or 25 pounds.
So, what do you say to the people who say, well, you should not be looking at the scale? The number is not important. There's a lot of different mindsets around this. And, a lot of people believe, look, we really shouldn't care about the number. We should care about how we feel. But at the end of the day, I mean, the numbers kind of get to you. So, how can we focus our attention that will get us there without kind of giving up when things aren't budging?
So I agree that sometimes it can be daunting when you weigh yourself frequently. I would recommend weighing yourself maybe once a week so you can see more of a change versus daily. And the other thing I recommend is actually having all the different values. So doing your measurements so you can see what is my chest measurement, what is my waist measurement, what is my hip, because sometimes you may be actually putting on muscle and you won't see that scale budge because you're putting on muscle and you're not necessarily, and you're losing fat. So the composition has changed. And so you may not see the scale move, but you've noticed that, oh, my shirt feels a little bit loose or my pants feel a little bit loose, which kind of shows you that hey, you're moving in the right direction. It's just maybe you picked up a little bit of muscle, which weighs a little bit more. So I agree that it's better to kind of have all and not
Yeah.
just rely on one number or the other, because a lot of times you may not see the scale move as quickly as you want and you get discouraged. but a normal weight loss is usually 1 to 2 pounds per week. So when you see these different advertisements like, oh, you'll lose 40 pounds in a month, that is not the average. And that may not be your story, and that's okay, but as long as you are losing, that's important. So I would kind of focus on everything, that not only your measurements, how you feel. If you've noted like the small things, you're like, am I able to get off my medications? Do I have to take blood pressure medications anymore? Am I on less medications? Like, these are all important reasons why to exercise and why to have a healthy diet. So I kind of believe in doing everything. You do it all.
Okay, I want to ask you about that though. So, a lot of people I've heard, well, I started doing that, but I didn't feel good. And I think you bring up a very important point. As our body gets more healthy, as we drop some of that weight, then we may not require the level of intervention we did before. We may not require the same amount of blood pressure medicines. We may not require the same amount of insulin. So it is important to listen to your body and be aware of what your body is saying and, talk to your doctor as you're on this journey. Now, you talked about the baby steps and like the mile marks for achieving that half Ironman. Aside from maybe weighing yourself once a week and keeping your measurement, what other things do you feel are little baby steps that the audience can do to kind of overcome their weight regain and get back on track? Is there anything else you would recommend?
Yes. So I always recommend having like realistic goals that you can achieve. So for example, let's say I want to get back started with my exercise routine, but I haven't been doing anything. It is not realistic to say, okay, I'm going to run a 5K or a 10K in a month. No, you got to start small. So start with, hey, I have time enough to exercise for 30 minutes a day, 5 days out the week, and stick to that. So making realistic goals are going to be important that you can implement into your lifestyle. And it's okay if it's not like a whole hour or 2 hours at the gym. As long as it's something that you know you can do and commit to, then I would start there because you can always gradually increase upward. So by having the realistic goals and achieving them, it actually makes you feel better because you're like, I've done something, I've done this, I've achieved this. And it helps you to keep going forward. So definitely choosing, and I would choose 1 to 3 like goals that you want to do for the week in order to have a healthy lifestyle. And it doesn't have to be huge. It can be small. It can be something like, I want to drink more water. So I only drink 1 bottle. So this week I'm going to drink 2. Next week I'll drink 3. Next week I'll drink 4. So you just kind of gradually increase your habits to where you would like it to be.
That kind of goes back to that all or none thinking that you were talking about earlier. Sure, we recommend it all. All of it is great, but it does have to be kind of gradual and, slowly building up to that. Okay, so you mentioned that you've gone up and down over the course of your life. I have too, because life gets in the way. How do we adjust when life gets in the way? How do you find your way back? How do you know when we just need to take this period of time and say, it's okay that I'm going to put it back on the back burner and focus my attention on something else that has come up versus letting it go and it spiraling out of control?
Yeah, so definitely once you kind of, this happens a lot because you just never know what life is going to throw at you, whether it's a new job where you have more responsibilities or it's a family member who's sick that you need to care for. So a lot of times when you're going through that stressful period, you may have to take an inventory to be like, where am I right now? Have a journal, something where you're kind of writing down your thoughts, where you're taking inventory on where you are. And if for some reason you're at a place where you're like, I just can't exercise right now because I'm in a stressful place. But here's what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to make sure that I eat a little bit less. I'm going to balance it out a little bit more. So I would say when life gets in the way, definitely take stock on where you are. What are you in a stressful place or are you in a great place? And then limit what you can do. You can cut back on something, but still you can still be healthy. Like for example,
Yeah.
if I'm stressed out, instead of eating like, cookies and ice cream, I may say, hey, I may have a yogurt instead. It actually, I can substitute it. It actually gives me a little bit of sugary, something sugary there, but it's not as high in calorie as the cakes and the ice cream.
Yeah.
So just being able to, number one, forgive yourself for being imperfect. Number two, allowing yourself to go through that stressful period. And then three, just choosing a substitute. So you don't feel so overwhelmed that, oh, I'm just throwing everything to the wayside. I'm like, no, I'm still being healthy. It's just, this is what I'm doing for right now.
That is so true. Allowing yourself and giving yourself grace that for right now, things just need to be different, and that's okay. And I certainly believe on that, and I have done that. And then at the end, beat myself up. And I have to remember, hey, you agreed with yourself that you were going to put the exercise on the back burner for now. So don't beat yourself up. It's okay. Okay, well, I mean, this has been so really good. I do want to end by asking you to talk a little bit about your coaching program and what's the difference between one-on-one coaching, what's the difference between the group coaching, what if somebody's in a group program and they're embarrassed to talk in front of people. Tell us a little bit more about your programs.
Yes. So I do offer so the one-on-one program is where me and you work one-on-one, and we actually customize the plan to you. So we look at where you are, what your goals are, and we customize the nutrition plan, the exercise plan for you. And then each week we kind of delve on what the challenges you have and how to overcome it. So it's just focused on you. The group coaching is a little bit more structured. So you're in with a group of people who are trying to lose weight. But each week we have a structured content that we're trying to talk about, like whether it's nutrition, whether it's exercise. We still will come up with a customized plan, but it won't be as not intense, but as in detail as the one-on-one coaching. But both are all the 12-week program. And you can see yourself kind of getting to a place where you're able to exercise, where you're able to do it on your own. So it's going to help you kind of get there, get the tools that you need to keep going.
That accountability is so important too. That goes a long way. Okay, is there anything else that you would want the audience to know? Anything that maybe any parting thoughts or words?
Yeah. Just remember that you can do this. Like you said, put yourself first, be me first, and
Yeah,
make
be
yourself a
first.
priority and choose small goals that you need to help with making a healthy lifestyle. And know that you can do it. Also, the other thing I forgot to mention, the other thing that helps me is having like power thoughts and affirmations that I say over and over again, because it helps me to stay encouraged and remember that I can do this. Anything is possible.
That is so good. And if you are not on my email list, you guys need to be, because every single week I have a centering thought that you can use for the week. We talk about a particular thing and how our negative thoughts come in, and we replace those with affirmations or centering thoughts. So I completely, and if you guys have been listening, you know I'm a big proponent of this. So I agree with Dr. Shelley on that. So I will put Dr. Shelley's contact information in the show notes. She has a very big social media presence, and you can also reach out to her at her website. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you again, Dr. Shelley.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you hit subscribe so that you won't miss the next episode. And if you like this episode, please share it with a friend and give me a 5-star review so that I can reach more people. I'll see you next week.
Disclaimer: the views and opinions shared here are for information and educational purposes only. They do not serve as a medical or professional advice. They do not represent any academic, medical, or professional institution or organization. If you found this helpful, don't forget to leave a 5-star review.
Thank you.